there's only one Doctor, but there's an entire Doctor Who team. From writers to directors, set builders to costume designers, every word on every page and every shot in every scene is planned meticulously from start to finish. The Girl in the Fireplace is no different, with countless meetings and discussions being held before anyone steps foot on set. You've all seen how episode 4 ends, but where did it all begin?
Okay, scene 1. So we've got a starscape and then we've got Versailles, which we briefly touched on earlier on, that we'd look into the possibility of actually going to Versailles.
My favourite part of the script-to-screen journey, I mean, there are lots of bits actually, but my favourite part is when you get that first script and it's good.
It's like getting the latest instalment of this adventure that's kind of a big part of my life. So it's really exciting getting it and kind of flicking through the pages as quick as I can.
Your second read is, of course, always about, oh God, how do we achieve this? And you start to break it down. And that's exciting because it's the job. And that's when you get to really admire the crew and their expertise and how they come together to make something possible.
When you see a fireplace on a spaceship, you have to think this isn't just some novel feature. This isn't like, ooh, original features, very nice. It is not meant to be there. The tone meeting has become, how are we going to make this episode meeting, really? It's the only time everybody sits around the table at the same time, every stage in the development of the episode, and talk about what we're all trying to do.
There needs to be life in the palace of some kind. Inside, yeah.
You sort of hammer down what sort of tone everyone is establishing, and that bleeds through into like the colours that the costumes have, which will match the set, and the feel of it, how big or how small the adventure might be. It might be intimate, it might be epic.
I got the impression from that you're looking down in the spaceship, you're looking down into the ballroom.
It's just to get everyone singing from the same song sheet, really, and then that's how I think it works, those tone meetings, because that's how we get such a coordinated end result.
Hello, you like that?
Thank you.
They've got scribbles on.
But before filming begins, the team hold a read-through to make sure everything goes according to plan.
The read-through for me is terrifying because it's the moment where you get a sense of what is really coming. And obviously you've had a sense beforehand because you've prepped, you've seen casting tapes, you've had endless discussions. But for me, the read-through is where you can't hide. And you know in that moment, largely, if something is going to work or not.
Hello, everyone!
That's just a new title.
Hello! So we're back for episode 4.
You just feel the pressure to kind of nail it there and then. Of course that pressure doesn't exist because ultimately all that matters is what is finally in the can, but because it's the first time you're all kind of doing it together in a room, you want to kind of get it right, you want to impress everyone, you want everyone to like you.
Doctor? Doctor who? It's more than just a secret, isn't it?
For me, it's always terrifying because it's the first time you've ever read in front of anyone, and also because I didn't audition for this job, I was offered it straight out, and I suddenly thought, God, what if I turn up to the read-through and read it and think, oh, actually, she's...
What did you see?
That there comes a time, Time Lord,
when every lonely little boy must learn how to dance.
For us, it's the final dotting the I's and crossing of the T's. That's where you do final rewrites. Often you can come out of a read-through, change lines or realise you haven't said something or have a word with the director about the emphasis of a certain scene. It's your final chance before it's all put through in the edit just to make sure everything's working.
Okay, so episode 4, scene 1, exterior Versailles night, a perfect dazzling starscape, pan down to an extraordinary magnificent palace, and then a scream and more screaming.
We are under attack! There are creatures! I don't even think they're human, we can't stop them!
The moment that a scene that I've read on the page suddenly comes to life and moves me emotionally. When actors breathe life into words in that way, that's really exciting.
Listen to me.
There is a man coming to Versailles. He has watched over me my whole life, and he will not desert me tonight.
The first pages were quite straightforward. It was classic attack, okay, set in the 18th century, but you've got monsters running down a corridor chasing people.
Doctor! Doctor!
I can see where we're going here, I know where I am. I turned to page 2, which was immediately after titles, and we'd gone from Versailles 18th century to a 51st century spaceship.
It's a spaceship. Brilliant, I got a spaceship on my first go.
At that point I thought, okay, it's not going to be straightforward in the way I thought.
So, what's the date? How far have we gone?
About 3,000 years into your future, give or take.
What sort of feel do you get for this spaceship?
It's the submarine of the future. You know, they are, you know, they're built out of parts that lock together.
So we will build the corridors of Versailles alongside the corridors of the spaceship, so we get the interaction between the two of them.
And the link between the two worlds is an 18th century fireplace, brought to life with some 21st century mechanics.
Well, this quite an elaborate construction here is it's a turntable. In layman's terms, what it is it's the old Scooby-Doo fireplace.
The revolving fireplace. The Doctor says it's a magic door.
It's a time portal, so that the Doctor can get from the ship to me. You can get through to my world through the tapestry as well, and then there's also another one, the mirror.
Renette hasn't time flown.
Fireplace man!
The main thing we were trying to do with these two sets is obviously make them as contrasting as possible. Obviously the spaceship is a utility ship. It's very run down, it's very dirty, there's lots of cables, and it's basically been plundered by the droids. And that's set against the plushness of Versailles and the clean lines of Versailles and the colours. Because the whole sort of story is about time and crossing time and time getting mixed up and developing. We've tried with the sets, as we find Renette across her life, the palette changes. It starts at spring, it goes through summer, autumn, and then winter for when her funeral procession is being taken. So yeah, we tried to run a time span through the colours.
My favourite visual moment in The Girl in the Fireplace is when Renette dashes from a corridor in Versailles in one shot straight into the corridor in the spaceship, because it looks magical and impossible. Now it's not, of course, it's two sets next to each other and she walks through a door, but it seems so extraordinary. When she stands there wearing her beautiful period costume on a set from Alien, it's arresting. It's two things you know well, period drama and sci-fi horror, and they're sitting together, it's happening in the same frame. And I think that's very special. It's very Doctor Who.
Those screams. Is that my future?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Then I must take the slower path.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
It's at that point, I think, when she realises that she's never going to be with him, that it is a fantasy because his world is so alien to her, and she doesn't feel at ease in there. It's all... It would be terribly shocking.
You okay?
No. I'm very afraid. But you and I both know, don't we, Rose? The Doctor is worth the monsters.
It strikes me that one of the things you're trying to do all the time in popular television is give reasons for people not to turn off. Right, you imagine the audience sitting down and thinking, oh, I'll watch 2 minutes and I'll go. And you think, well, if I can just keep eking out the reason to keep watching, I'll maybe get them 45 minutes through the show. So you're playing that game. So at that moment in the show, when we think we've got the hang of what's going on, it's starting to become a bit clearer. He walks in and he's face to face with the horse. And I'm hoping that the guy who's made the decision to get to the pub is going, oh, maybe just wait until I find out what the horse is about.
Mickey and Rose have disappeared, which...
You just skipped the horse then.
Oh, have I?
The horse is here.
That's second. Oh, yeah.
You know, horse. Best man's like that.
No one's good, Amos. You're not getting away with that. There's a horse on board.
The horse coming through the mirror was the hardest thing to achieve. And for the very first draft, you sit there going, oh my God, a horse comes through a mirror. How do we do that?
How do we do this then?
The Doctor on horseback bursting through a mirror into a ballroom.
Easy. You said it was easy, Dave.
There are 100 practical things that you have to think about. Can you take the horse into a ballroom?
The horse with the height of a horse and the jump and the lead actor on the horse.
Can you explode the mirror?
Oh, just the layers of that shot were impossible.
Can you have enough people in the ballroom to kind of have to scatter?
Everyone forged on and said it could be done, and then 2 days before we were due to film it, they actually turned around and said, we can't do this.
There was the hell moment where I phoned Stephen Moffat to say that his glorious climax, which was David Tennant on a horse through a mirror into a country house, was not achievable.
It was too complicated, it was way too expensive, and it was a nightmare.
And Stephen took it like a man and cried a lot on the end of the phone.
I threw the biggest Queenie strop yet done in Doctor Who, and believe me, there's some competition for that title. I was an infant.
And I know Stephen was so upset that I kind of thought, well, all right, we better swallow our fears and go for it.
Now we've got a man on horseback leaking through a mirror, so that's brilliant.
With the horse under starter's orders, there was just one remaining query.
Because of the sequence of events that happen in this ballroom, I had to ask the question to the estate manager if we could bring the horse into the ballroom, and he had quite a blank expression on his face, and he commented that Lord Hertford was quite a keen question, but not sure if he would allow the horse to jump onto his tiled floor. So it was a no, unfortunately.
This is the kind of climactic scenes in episode 4, where I come through a mirror on a horse, as you do, trot around a bit and save the day again, you know. So that's what we're doing today. It's all fairly extraordinary because it's such a big deal with all this extra crowd and the mirror breaking. Of course, the horse isn't actually here because the horse isn't allowed in this hall. So the horse has to be done on a different day, and it's all one of those, everything has to be put together piece by piece.
It was terribly complicated because we had to shoot elements at Ragley Hall itself with extras reacting to the Doctor and the horse.
It's the sound of horses' hooves coming from somewhere. And you're looking around, you don't know where it's coming from, it's getting louder and louder. And it's coming from the mirror, and crash!
We had to do a separate shoot of the mirror exploding with blue glass. And then we had to shoot on a third day with David and a horse and a stuntman in a paddock that we had to deck out completely in green and turn into a green screen studio. As you can probably imagine, that was terrifically expensive. All of that said, I do think you're not going to see a horse jump through a mirror into a period ballroom every Saturday night.
You look younger every day.
It's a good thing that writers get involved in production, but it's also a fact that writers can get too close to production, because I don't think I would ever even have thought of writing a horse coming through a mirror, regardless of whether I ever would have imagined it, because Stephen's got a completely unique, brilliant mind that comes up with that. But I think I would have stopped myself even thinking of something like that because I wouldn't have thought it was feasible. I didn't think we could ever shoot that, and I was plagued by the entire shoot by whether it would ever actually happen. Which is bad for a writer. It worries me that I could be limiting myself by what is feasible.
I hope if you're a 7-year-old kid watching The Horse at home, you're going to love it, because it nearly killed us, that horse.
In scene 33, Ronette enters the ballroom with the Clockwork people, holding everybody hostage, and she commands the space by addressing everybody.
Such a commotion, such distressing noise. Kindly remember that this is Versailles. This is the royal court, and we are French.
It's a general thought that when you do, a period drama like this, and we sort of say, oh, it's gorgeous and blah 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 and everything, and sometimes absolute historical accuracy can kick up the arse. You actually look at the fashions of 1732, and that was the one year everything looked dreadful. You know what I mean? It's like, and actually, so in that instance, I don't care about accuracy. It's sort of, you want round about that period, let people write letters saying, oh, they didn't have their hems exactly like that in that year. I'll answer them.
Obviously, at the tone meeting, Russell said the main key words for him about this episode were about lusciousness and richness and jewels and colour, and that we shouldn't stick necessarily with the period if it meant that we could get better frocks.
It's much more interesting to get the feel of an age and the feel of what your story is showing in that age. As long as it isn't a motorcycle helmet in 1860 or something, as long as it roughly looks right, it's much more important to get a feel.
In the past, I've always been part of a period piece where everyone's been in costume and everyone's been in that period and holding themselves in the correct way with the correct etiquette of the period. But with this, there's a scene where I sit chatting with Billy.
Please don't scream or anything.
She's able to be a lot more modern, and I kept wanting to kind of slump and cross my legs, but of course you can't do that. I felt a little bit like the black sheep sometimes. I thought I've been a bit overdressed compared to everybody else.
When I was thinking about Ronette's dresses, I wanted her to be strong. So when Rose comes to see her, Ronette's standing there in a very strong pink shot taffeta dress. The other favourite moment, I suppose, of this episode was Ronette bending down into the fireplace, and she had a very heavily beaded dress on, which completely glittered and looked beautiful when she was lit by the fire.
Still want to see those stars?
More than anything.
Give me 2 minutes. Pack a bag.
Am I going somewhere?
Go to the window. Pick a star. Any star.
My favourite dress, definitely, is the big ball gown that I wear in the final scene in the court of Versailles. And that is a cast-off, actually. It's a hand-me-down from, believe it or not, Helen Mirren. And she wore it in The Madness of King George. And as hand-me-down clothes go, it's not half bad.
The prime suspects in this episode are the Clockwork Droids, the stuff of nightmares inspired by history.
Okay, that's scary.
You're scared of a broken clock?
There was a clockwork man around at that time, a clockwork chess player.
If this clock's broken, and it's the only clock in the room, then what's that?
I like the idea of clockwork, and I like the idea of tick, tock, and broken clocks and all that kind of creepiness, that kind of very sort of children's story creepiness of a clockwork man that makes that noise.
You stay exactly where you are.
Should we talk about the monster? What are we thinking about the Clockwork Man?
I mean, the thing that kind of sprung to mind, I was just looking at it, because it all describes cogs and all this kind of workings. I mean, I always imagine it seems like an odd description for like a carriage clock.
Yeah.
You've got the glass dome and the workings going on the side, so I'm imagining the face, and it's got all the workings, but it's got kind of a glass dome over the whole thing.
Oh, nice needlework. Shame about the face.
One of the lines in the script that inspired me is that the doctor looks and sees the Clockwork Man and just says,
"Oh, you are beautiful."
So it was this idea of, you know, this thing should look beautiful, absolutely a beautiful piece of machinery. So, you know, it just couldn't be a few old cogs on a stick.
Look at that! Space age clockwork, I love it, I've got chills.
The impression of eyes and the impression of mouths are actually made up by the working mechanisms. So it feels like a face, but it's not a face. You know, it is just the way the mechanisms are laid out.
There's nothing more frightening than trying to look for a face and not finding one, because you're always trying to put a face, and then you put a face in the moon. But you know, if you know, you're really struggling to identify anything as something you can talk to.
Who are you? Identify yourself.
It's purely a functioning machine. And that's why all the mechanisms are on show. That's why it just feels like a piece of machinery that's walking around and doing its thing. So the masquerade mask is its way of hiding its inhumanity.
You are compatible.
Is there anything to indicate that it's talking when it talks? Is that just body language? Is it doing this?
They can
or is
be.
there, or should there be?
Or the reason for that with the Daleks is, you know, which one is talking. There is only ever one at a time, so there's not a huge deal.
Well, there is only one at a time.
I mean, maybe something could just move, and the voice sounds a bit as if it's really being made by these cogs in a particular, you know, a sort of
sounds like it's
nasty
cranked up
grinding
almost,
thing.
like,
Yeah.
If you can actually see something ticking away in the face and wherever, you know where that sound come from, and also, you know, as you say, you can, for the talking, you can have something move, but it doesn't particularly have to be a mouth.
If you're searching for a human feature and you don't get one.
Yeah.
We are not the same. We are in no sense the same.
We are the same.
Get out of here. Get out of here this instant.
Ronette, no.
The Doctor then challenges the Clockwork Man and explains what happens. The Clockwork Man realises there's no point to existing anymore, and self-destructs.
It's over. Accept that. I'm not winding you up.
You just said they can't teleport anymore. So if they vanish,
we might think the teleport.
It's slightly flawed, isn't it?
I think it would sell it better to me if they just
Clockwork
fall to bits.
should stop,
You know, they
yeah.
should stop and before they fall into the parts.
The room will be full of ticking at this point. If all the ticking just stopped. And then
Oh, that's
your silence.
marvellous.
And could he then go up and push one over?
How cheap was that? How cheap did I think that?
Come on now.
I found the droids absolutely terrifying ever since I was very young. I have a terrible phobia of clowns. I really find them very sinister. And the droids, when they have their masks on, they look very much like clowns. And I think what makes them so scary is that, A, the blackness in their eyes, there's no emotion there at all, and the fact that they're smiling, even when they're saying the most horrible, horrible things, it's that grin.
The starting point for Pompadour, in terms of the emotional story, was the Doctor falls in love. And I think that was a romantic story that Stephen was absolutely bursting to write.
Ronette. Well, given how you've grown, I suppose I'd have a hard time denying that I've always liked writing about sort of romantic tensions and the effect of desire on people's lives. To my own surprise, it works rather beautifully in Doctor Who.
Ronette Poisson? No. No way! Ronette Poisson! Later Madame Etoile, later still Mistress of Louis XV, uncrowned Queen of France. Actress, artist, musician, dancer, courtesan. Fantastic gardener.
Because in Doctor Who, all the scenes are about bombs going off, you know, racing along corridors and avoiding robots. Putting the romantic tension in there just allows the scene to have a different texture, to be about something else, to deflect away for a moment from all the sort of melodrama.
I could have danced all night, I could have danced all night, and still have begged for more. I could have spread my wings and done have you met the French? My God, they know how to party.
Well, this morning, we're filming absolutely crucial stuff, dangerous and incendiary stuff, because we're filming the snog between the Doctor and Madame de Pompadour.
My initial reaction when I read the script was, oh my God, I can't believe I get to kiss Doctor Who.
It's love at first sight. He's dumbstruck. It's the thunderbolt.
If I had to describe the kiss in one word, charged.
Shocking. Ravenous.
Madcap. I mean, I remember seeing the rushes. It goes on and on and on.
It's like an adult fairy tale love story. We can't have enough of those, can we?
No, I didn't have any concerns about the kiss. I'm sure the Doctor Who fans are going to crack up.
Kissing's kind of difficult in Doctor Who. I know some people are really dead set against it. Some people don't mind so much. The thing about Doctor Who fans is they can explain away anything they don't like. They can say, well, she kissed him. It was all her doing. He was just there, poor old Doctor Who.
I know that a lot of the fans of Madame de Pompadour will be very offended because it was known to be non-canonical that she ever snogged any aliens. Like, Doctor Who fans will be quite relaxed about it, I would think.
Reason tells me you cannot be real.
Oh, you never want to listen to reason.
In the original script, there are more lines of dialogue of seduction before they actually went in for the kiss.
My education does not allow that I could be alone in a room with a man. You are, in consequence, clearly a dream.
In the edit, we decided to cut them out because we felt that it was better for it to be more of a shock.
Who the hell are you? I'm the Doctor, and I just snogged Madame de Pompadour.
This is a woman who's a match for him. She's so ridiculously well-educated, ridiculously civilized, and sort of multi-talented. She could be a dancer, musician, courtesan. All that stuff is true.
So this, you know, if the Doctor was going to settle down, it would be a girl like this.
The first time.
Oh, hello.
Who
is she?
Jeanne-Antoinette Poisson, one of the most accomplished women who ever lived.
I thought the sun rose in your eyes. The moon and the stars were the gifts you gave.
So here you are, my lonely angel, stuck on the slow path with me.
Yeah, the slow path. Here's to the slow path.
She is the one person who actually knows what it feels like to be the Doctor.
Such a lonely little boy. Lonely then and lonelier now. How can you bear it?
How did you do that?
She's been inside his head. She's seen his past. And she knows how he feels.
Wish me luck.
They have this kind of extraordinary relationship, and yet it's all over before it can begin, which is the Doctor's eternal dilemma, an eternal tragedy.
The first time ever I saw
He's enchanted by Madame de Pompadour, and he goes through very, very human emotions of love and loss, and I think it's very intimate, and I think it's good to see the Doctor suffer in that way occasionally. A gust of wind and noise, and the Doctor looks to see the fireplace with the fire going out. The Doctor's face solemn, and he turns towards the TARDIS as the TARDIS noise as it dematerialises. And we're left with the smiling face of Ronette. A portrait of her stands just behind where the TARDIS landed.
My favourite part, script-to-screen journey, is the end.
We're panning across the exterior of the ship, and as all its lights go slowly out, and we're left with the name of the ship, SS Madame de Pompadour.
That's why you did it. That's why you went through all those months of writing, all those rewrites, all those meetings, all those design meetings, all that filming, is to get it finished. And I love that. I absolutely love it.
We have our brandest, newest comedy series to kick off tomorrow. That's Grown Ups, tomorrow at 10 on BBC of the 3. And next it's The Apprentice.